And we'll get into the unboxing of the FlightDeck from PolarPro. Now, this is the tablet or CrystalSky holder you're going to be using if you have the remote controls for something like the DJI Spark, the Mavic Air, as well as the Mavic Pro and the Mavic 2 lineup. And as far as the mounting options go, it comes with a tablet mount which can hold an iPad or a tablet all the way up to a 10.5 inch. It comes with a 1/4 mount, so you can actually use it on this tablet mount itself or any other mount that has a 1/4 at the bottom of it, as well as it comes with a bracket that can hold your CrystalSky. And I am just a sucker for really high quality design, and they've really stepped it up. I've actually used PolarPro for a long time now, and I've seen them come from just the generic white cases that just say PolarPro on them all the way up to this, where it feels like I'm opening up some almost like a luxury watch or something like that. So here it is. You open it up, and as you can see here, the parts are just beautifully laid out within this foam. Let's just start taking things apart and seeing exactly how they all go together. See a little more details on the mount. This actually holds a 10.5 inch tablet, and it has a rubber grip on the top and the bottom to keep that tablet nice and secure in here. It has a really wide one, which I really like. It has a wide grip here, so in case you have like a case or anything like that, this looks like it should be tight enough to hold the tablet in there with the case. We have the 1/4 mount here, which I'm assuming, of course, will go onto this mount right here. And here's the CrystalSky Mount. This is meant to hold both a CrystalSky 5.5 as well as a 7.8 inch. All you have to do is put the CrystalSky right here, and then of course the mounting brackets will just screw in. And then on the bottom is the holder, which will go and attach to this portion right here where the CrystalSky will mount to the plate. FlightDeck monitor mount user guide, quartz line filter collection, lifetime warranty cards, and inside we have the pre-flight prep. It just gives you some step-by-steps on how to install the CrystalSky, your tablet mount. Now let's take a closer look at the plate as well as the mounting system we'll be using to hook up our tablet. Now I don't have a CrystalSky, so I have to use a tablet mount instead. If you do have a CrystalSky, you'll be using this one. What you're going to be doing is loosening up this knob here, which would allow you to then adjust the angle of your mounts. And if you want to turn the actual tablet or CrystalSky up top, you're just going to loosen this one, and then you can now move this. In the front, we have a little slot for you to use a lanyard. So if you have a lanyard, all you have to do is clip it onto the front here. They don't provide you with a lanyard, so you just have to provide your own, and it'll clip into the front. That way, if you needed to hang this from your neck, it gives you a little bit of support while doing so. And like I mentioned, I don't have the CrystalSky. I only have an iPad. This is an iPad Air 2, which I normally fly with, and it comes with an extra 1/4 mount here at the very bottom. And all you have to do is pop that into the bracket here, right here on the inside, and then squeeze that down. Now we find the angle that we want to use. For instance, if I want it to be a little bit more over my remote, just have to angle it down just like that. And there's multiple pivot points right here, so you can actually have it leaning further back if you want. Once you tighten it down, it does not move. It feels really, really sturdy within the holder. And then make sure this is clamped down. And there it is. I'm using my iPad Air 2 as my display. And all I have to do, of course, is just plug this here into the bottom of the remote control, the USB at the very bottom. Plug that in, and then I'll be able to use my DJI Go 4 app. As you can see here from the side view, plenty of clearance room for my fingers. If I place this down on the ground, as of right now, it's not tipping over or anything like that. So as far as balance goes, that feels pretty good. If I lean this thing too much, in one direction, then the remote control could teeter. So this is like a little bit more extreme angle that I wouldn't normally, use it at. But if I put that down, now you can see it's a little bit off balance. That's because the angle of my bracket's a little bit more extreme. This is more of the angle I would probably be using my iPad at. And once it's in there, it sits fine. Any of you guys are familiar with my channel, you guys know I've been using the MavMount. This is version 3. I've been using a MavMount for the past couple years now because really it's, kind of the industry standard as far as mounting systems for something like a large tablet. And MavMount actually came out with CrystalSky mounts as well. And I know that they're pretty much the industry standard because PolarPro already had a mounting system for tablets that came out about a year ago, but they came out with one that was more on the plastic side. It definitely could not hold a heavy tablet. There was a lot of wobble with it. They came out with this one in a sense to compete with the MavMount, and we pretty much know that because if you look at PolarPro's website, they pretty much have a line item or a table that says, here's the FlightDeck, here are the pros and cons of the FlightDeck, And here are the pros and cons of the MavMount side by side, and then they have a third row that just says all other brands. So PolarPro really made this thing to kind of go head to head with MavMount, but at the same time, I can definitely see some pros and cons of each, and let's quickly talk about those. So let's start with the pros, of course. Right now, this is a ball joint system in order for you to position your tablet onto your controller. So what I mean by that is really there's only one knob, and it's a ball joint. So once you loosen that knob up, you can actually move your tablet in any direction just like that. And once you find that perfect angle, you just have to tighten it up with one knob, and there you go. It'll lock in place. They also have a system here with a spring loaded, so it actually keeps it pretty tight and makes it easy for you to put in and out your tablet. And there it is. So now it's in there, and it's really quick. They have a 1/4-20 mount here at the bottom of it, and they also have one at the very bottom right here. I've been using this one in the middle because it gives me a lot more balance on my tablet. And just position-wise and balance-wise, it made everything feel a lot more comfortable when it was mounting right here in the middle of the plate and not at the very bottom, and having a lot more stress at the bottom of it with all of this top heavy tablet sitting here pushing down against it. Loosen the ball joint up, position it, and there you go. It's a lot more sturdy to have the mount in the middle of the bracket versus at the bottom, where now it ends up being very top heavy. PolarPro has the bottom mount, but they don't have the back mount right here, where I feel like it would be an easy fix if PolarPro just added another 1/4-20 here and kind of mimic that same style that MavMount has right here, so at least it gives you another mounting option. The next thing that's a pro for MavMount is what they have here, which they call the Mav Lock. So it's this little small extra piece of aluminum right here, and they're calling it the Mav Lock. So what it does is it puts your plate in here, and that little lock, or that little extra piece of aluminum here, makes it so that this does not shift. It kind of holds it in place here at the back. This one does not have that. This one just sits on the arms and a little bit of the area where your remote control sticks go. Now it does sit a little bit high, of course, so your bag needs to be able to accommodate that size. So that's one of the things that's a pro and a con. It's easy to break down, but yet you do need some space in your bag to accommodate the height of this. Another con I have with the MavMount is that they do have a lanyard system. It's actually a bracket that goes around here. I don't have it on this one. I have it on my other MavMount, but it is another ring that goes around for your lanyard. The one thing I did see is that it's a little bit tight, so it's kind of fiddly when you're trying to adjust the lanyard ring, but you can get used to it, but it is a little fiddly when you're trying to adjust that ring to hook up your lanyard. Pros and cons of the PolarPro FlightDeck. Now the pros, of course, we'll start there. Just overall, I mean, aesthetics, PolarPro just keeps killing it. I mean, they just make stuff that just looks amazing. I mean, this thing is well built. It has the aluminum plate here. The one thing I like about them is that, you know, their attention to detail is just really, really nice. You know, they've really upped their standards, up their manufacturing, their aesthetics, how stuff is really looked at in detail and how it's really manufactured in detail. The one thing that's good about PolarPro is that when you are done, you just have to remove this one bracket here. You have a 1/4-20 right here. Loosen this up, and then it folds down to a smaller footprint than does the MavMount. So if you are worried about size, then of course, yes, it does fold down. So one of the pros for the FlightDeck is that it does fold down a lot more. You know, I'm not going to take off this mount because it's another Allen at the bottom. But if you're looking at space, then of course it will go towards PolarPro. Now, while space saving is one of the pros for this, it's also one of the cons for it. Let me explain why. Because once you pull this now out of the bag, you have to adjust and do a few things in order for you to get it properly, you know, angled for the way you like it to be. You have to deal with 1, 2, and 3 different adjustments. So that's one of the things that's a little bit more on the fiddly side of things that if you don't want to deal with, and then you're gonna have to bring this one out and tighten it on 2. Then you're gonna put the mount in and then tighten it on 3. So now at least the mount is in. Once it's in your remote control, just like this, you're gonna want to make another adjustment. So once it's in here, if you didn't like that angle, you have to either make another adjustment here, that, and then I want to tilt this back a little bit more. So now I have to loosen up this back one. Now, of course, if you've done this a few times, you're already going to know your angle, so you can probably quickly do it. But just so you guys know, there's definitely more steps involved in order for you to get that position, where here you're dealing with one, right? You're dealing with a ball head, which makes it easy to make those adjustments. So once this, you know, tablet holder is on, and it's tight here. You just have to move it into that area and then tighten it up, and then you're pretty much there. Another pro with a PolarPro one is that it has a little bit more of a rounded edge. So if you are gripping it on some of the edges, it is a little bit easier on the hands because it's more rounded, where here it's a little bit sharper. Not that big of a deal, but just a nice touch that they added it a little bit more round. One thing I also like is that they integrated the lanyard hook to be right in front, so you're not dealing with a little ring like you are with the MavMount. So that's a nice touch here. That for me, which is a con, is the same thing I talked about on the MavMount. That bottom plate, which holds a 1/4-20 and it holds the tablet here at the bottom, is just something I feel like there was just too much top heaviness going on with this mount to feel that comfortable with it. So even though it is really strong and really well built, I'm not too worried about it. But at the same time, every time something is that top heavy, I feel like, you know, you're at the mercy of this little 1/4-20 bracket here. And all that weight is just being put right here at this one point. And like I said with the MavMount, if PolarPro can actually move this to the middle of the bracket in a nice way to kind of offset that difference, if they were to move this right here and put a 1/4-20 right in the middle and have it sit like this, I just feel like balance-wise and just, you know, weight-wise, it would be a lot better just because of the fact that you're not sitting here at a single point and having this very top-heavy. And this thing breaks. It hasn't happened yet. Cross my fingers, knock on wood, it hasn't happened. But at the same time, that's about it. You can't really use this anymore once this thing comes apart, because there's a 1/4-20 here, but you can't hook it up to a 1/4-20 there, so you're pretty much out of luck. So there it is, guys. This is a flight deck from PolarPro. This is the monitor mount for both the CrystalSky as well as your tablets. Both of these, as you can see, I just talked about the pros and cons of both. I don't think you can go wrong either way. These are both well built, and I just wanted to go through with you some of the pros and cons I felt like after seeing and using these products. I hope you guys got value from my video, and if you guys did, please don't forget to hit that like button, and also don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell to be notified when I post new videos. This is Aljon Stasio with FlightPath.com. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care.